At first glance, it's nearly impossible to notice, but an underground bunker known as MEGHQ-FREEPORT sits along the Grand River in Kitchener's Schneider Park. Owned by the Region of Waterloo, it was conceived and crafted to serve as a Cold War fallout shelter to protect key officials following a nuclear attack. Now, 55 years after its construction, this unique and crumbling piece of local history is sparking debate about its future. Should it be demolished, or should this unique space be restored, preserved, and reimagined?
All right, so I'm Helen Mary Russell. I'm the Director of Cultural Services with the Region of Waterloo. Right now, we're in front of what we're calling the nuclear bunker. It actually is the MEGHQ, so about, 55 years ago in 1966. This building behind us was built as part of an initiative during the Cold War. So here we had a national initiative to try to make sure that government could continue in the case of a nuclear attack somewhere near this area. And so a bunch of people all came together with this great idea to say, let's build a nuclear bunker so that we can continue governance. This is going to be a place that's going to house important officials, important staff, and it's going to be connected to a whole bunch of other buildings just like this around the country so that we can continue government, so things can keep running just in case somebody decides to drop a nuclear bomb. This is a slice of land that goes from King Street down to the Grand River. It's right in the middle of what is Kitchener's Schneider Park. So it's a slice of land, about 1.5 acres, that goes from the street down to the river. And the idea was to make sure that we have this nuclear bunker close to the river so they would have access to water. Originally, this building behind us would have actually all been underground. This was the idea behind it. It was designed by the same people who designed the CN Tower. So they came up with this great idea that build it all out of concrete and then cover it up with dirt, and that gives it a fallout factor of 500, which means the radiation inside would be 1/500th of what it was outside. So this is the whole idea of this, right? This isn't what to protect us from the bomb falling. This is actually to protect us after the bomb has fallen, so that we actually are protected from the after effects of the radiation. So the building not only was built here to have close access to the river and to have water, but it also was built to be self-sustaining, right? So it didn't have to rely on anything else that was going on around it. So it would have had its own generator, it would have had its own septic tank, so the people could go inside there and stay in there for a significant period of time. So the building behind us is one of few bunkers that are still standing in municipal ownership. So back in 1966, when the Cold War was on, there's the height of the Cold War, everyone's getting a little bit worried. We're trying to think about how we're going to keep our governments going. And so we're building these little buildings all over the place to build a network. So they had the big one, which was the Defen Bunker. Most people have heard of the Defen Bunker. And underneath that, there were provincial-sized ones and then smaller ones. This was a municipally sized one. And then underneath, there were also these smaller relay posts, right? So this was all about radio communication between all of these things to keep things going, pass on messages, keep that continuity. But of course, as time passes on, they don't seem to be the most useful buildings in the world, right? This is dark inside, it's underground. And you don't really think about this whole idea that we don't need to protect ourselves from nuclear fallout anymore, so most people decommissioned them. We also decommissioned ours back in the early 90s, but it still stands. We found an adaptive reuse. We allowed community groups to use this. We had the ham radio people using it. We also had the rowing club using it. But it's now got to the point where water has been coming in, there's mold, there's asbestos. So back in 2017, we sort of said, maybe it's not the best idea for people to come in this building anymore. And so it's been vacant ever since then. The building was meant to be entered from above, right? So you got a staircase, concrete staircases right at the top of hill, and you'd come in and that would be the only part that was actually visible from above ground, because the rest of it would have been covered in dirt then. So you come down the stairs and you're going to this decontamination room, right? This is what we're expecting life to be like if there's any kind of nuclear fallout. And behind the decontamination room, there's a mechanical room. That's how you keep this place running. And then there's a long hallway, and it has these variety of rooms that are going to come off of it. So you've got a storage room, and then you've got your lecture room, which also doubles as your kitchen and your dining room. So there's a lot of multi-use going on in this building because you only have a certain amount of space and a lot of stuff that you need to do. Next to that, you have your storage room, which is also the women's dorm. And next to that, you have the women's toilets. And there's a shower in there as well. And then you have the men's toilets next door, significantly more toilets in there because we have significantly more men expected to be in there. Now on the other side of the hallway, you've got a lecture room, which is also the men's dormitory. And then you have a larger room, which is your operations room. That is the biggest room that's in there. And coming off of there, you have a little coordinators room, and that's actually also serves as a conference room, depending on what you need to do. And at the other end, you've got yourself a communications room, a deputy coordinator's room, which is also a message control space, and then a secretary typing pool. Now, if you think about how fascinating that is, and the number of people are going to have secretary typing pools anymore, but these are the things that they knew that they needed in order to keep their operations running.
When I look at this building, I think of collaboration, because I think it physically represents collaboration. Right from the beginning of emergency planning in the region of Waterloo, it was a partnership, right, between the county and the area municipalities. And they came together to discuss and decide how they're going to respond to any kind of emergency. This land that we're standing on is collaborative. It was, one piece was the Township of Waterloo, one piece was the City of Kitchener. They came together and donated the land, each for $1, to the County of Waterloo to be used for emergency measures.
The property is still currently in municipal ownership, right? This is still under the ownership of the Region of Waterloo, as it was right from 1966 when this thing was created by the county. So that's the process that we're currently in. It's 2021, and we're having a little think about and talking with the community about the fact that this isn't just a building, it's a building in a unique location, right? It's not just, it's a bunker, so there's something interesting about the fact that it is built underground. There's something interesting about it being situated in parkland, and there's something interesting about it being right next to the Grand River. So with all of those assets and the fact that it is a heritage asset, so how do we take those factors and talk to the community and say, is there something that we could be doing with this that would have value for the community? So that's the process that we're currently in, is asking the community, what do you think? What could we be doing with this building?